Hello everybody, this is Mr. Wes Moore and I am your instructor for this Promotional Strategies course. Hope that you're doing well. I'd like to get started today with session 2 of our course entitled Finding the Value That Grows Your Business. So let's get right into it. Let's get started with a little review of session 1 that we'll build on in this session. In session 1 we discussed 3 key things. Number 1, business is all about creating value. Number 2, value is that which a customer wants, needs, and will pay for. And 3, value is always determined with competitors in mind. Those were the 3 big takeaways from session 1. Now we want to move on in today's session and focus on another question, a single question that flows from what we learned the last time. And that is, what is the key to developing the right value? How does a company determine the right value on which it should focus? Value that will make it different from its competitors and desirable by its customers. Let's begin with a quote from George and Michael Belch's textbook, Advertising and Promotion. In defining the consumer decision-making process, they said this: the first stage in the consumer decision-making process is problem recognition, which occurs when the consumer perceives a need and becomes motivated to solve the problem. So what does this have to do with finding the right value? What does it mean about value? What it does for us actually is give us what I would call the golden goose of value creation. This simple concept, problem recognition, is the key to developing the right value. For a business to create value, it must ask a single question. What problems do my customers have that I can solve better than my competitors? What problems do my customers have that I can solve better than my competitors? What kinds of problems should we look for? Let me give you 4 with some examples. First problem that we might look for, the first problem source for customers, is dissatisfaction with the current supplier. Dissatisfaction with the current supplier. There is always an open door when customers are not happy with who they are buying from now. Some examples of dissatisfaction are cost dissatisfaction. Now let me stop here and just point out that this is the easiest way for your competitors to copy you, is to copy your price. So while we want to look at cost ways to differentiate ourselves and set ourselves apart from the competition, we want to be careful that we don't just default to cost, because our competitor can just come along the next day and lower his cost, and then we're all at a lower cost and lower profit level and nobody's really gained anything. So we want to be careful about that one, but customers do get dissatisfied with costs. They also get dissatisfied with the service level. Maybe the service that they get is not what they want, it doesn't meet their standards, it's not fast enough, whatever the case is. Thirdly, they're dissatisfied with quality. Maybe the roof that was put on just wasn't as good as they thought it was. I was talking to a guy today who took his car into Mako to get a paint job. And he said the price was great, but after a few years, the car's shine wore off very quickly and it got dull. So he wasn't terribly satisfied with the quality of what he had been given. And then there's a breadth dissatisfaction, that you have to go to 10 different places to get 10 different items instead of having everything that you need at that one location. So these are examples of dissatisfaction with the current supplier. Let me give you an example from my own life. A few years ago, I bought some tires from a company called Gerald's Tires and Brakes. You might be familiar with them. They're in the Charleston area, a bunch of different locations. And I remember it was right around Halloween, and I bought 4 new tires. They put them on. I drove home, and I was taking the kids to somewhere to go trick-or-treating in the van, and the wheels just started to wobble really, really bad. I was almost afraid we were going to crash. So we pulled off the road. We had to get a tow. Really ruined Halloween. But what it turned out was the Gerald's technician had not screwed the nuts on one of the wheels all the way. So it was loose. He had just tightened them almost like with his hand and forgot to go back and tighten the rest of them. Well, that was bad enough, but when I took it into Gerald's, they really treated me like I was the enemy. They treated me like I was the one with the problem. They were very standoffish. They didn't want to accept responsibility for their problem. I don't think anybody ever said they were sorry. So right away after that, I decided I was going to look for somewhere else to get tires, and haven't gone back to Gerald's since then. Now, your experience with Gerald's may be different from mine, but I'm just giving you an example of dissatisfaction with the supplier. And if this kind of thing is widespread enough, let's say that all the tire guys in a certain area seem to have quality problems, for example, then that would open the door for a competitor to come in, fix those problems within his or her own organization, and then be able to take market share and business from the other competitor. So this is an example of dissatisfaction with the current supplier. Another problem source is what I call a hole in the market. A hole in the market. This occurs when there is a need in a specific area, but there is no one to fill that need. Some examples might be convenience. The product or service isn't close enough to the customer to be convenient. And I'll give you an example of that here in just a moment from my own life. Another hole in the market example is there's what I call a missing offering. So there's not a supplier who offers a needed product or service in the market. I think about, for example, Sleep Number. Sleep Number is a company that makes mattresses, and they make a special kind of mattress, but you can only buy from Sleep Number. You can't buy it anywhere else. So if you wanted a Sleep Number bed and there was no Sleep Number outlet in your area, then there would be a hole in the market there, and you might be able to fill that in some way. That opens up a door for a competitor or for someone to buy a Sleep Number franchise and put it in a location. You see, that's a way to identify a value that you could offer. And then thirdly, there is a missing status brand, I call it. That is, there's not a supplier with the quality or the reputation or the status that the customer desires in that area. I think of maybe a Mercedes dealership or a Lexus dealership. If they're not in your area, then that creates a hole in the market from a quality, reputation, or status perspective. Now, on the top issue here, convenience, let me give you an example again from my experience. I have always had problems with my feet. They work well enough, but what happens if I stand up too long or if I walk too far, my feet will get very sore. Just certain parts of my feet just hurt all the time. So I have to be very careful about how much I walk and how much I stand and so on. But I also have to buy special shoes. I just can't go to a shoe department or a Walmart and buy my shoes. I have to go to specialty places that sell pretty expensive shoes with inserts and all that kind of stuff. Well, there's one place that I found here in Charleston that has the shoes I like, and it's called Cassis Brothers Shoes. And they're a great store, and I like the guys that work in there and everything. But the problem is they're in West Ashley, and I'm in Somerville. Now, if you know anything about this Charleston market, it's about 40 minutes from Somerville to West Ashley. You got to go the interstates, you got to go through all the traffic. So this really is a problem for me, even though I go there and buy my shoes. If there was a store that was closer that offered those same kind of products, I would definitely go there. So you see, if you were a shoe store and you were looking for a value, you could go out and compete with Walmart if you want to, or you could say, is there a way for me to offer the value that Cassis Brothers does here in this market where there's a hole? So that's how problems for customers can turn into value for companies. And then a third problem is what I call technology advancement advantage. Technology advancement advantage. This occurs when a new technology comes along that drastically reduces the cost of a service or a product, the time to make it, the time to install it, the time to deliver it, any of those things, kind of a revolutionary new technology that creates an opportunity in the market and gives you an opportunity to provide more value. A couple of examples of this: I was just installing some floors in my house last week, and it was called luxury vinyl plank. It's basically just vinyl sheets that you lay down. They're really nice. But anyway, to cut them, I would use a permanent marker to mark the spot, and then I would cut it. But sometimes I would put a mark and go, oh shoot, I shouldn't put that mark there, I should put it somewhere else. But a permanent marker is exactly what it's called. It's a permanent marker. So I was thinking, how do I get this off? And I remembered that my wife had shown me something called the magic eraser. And it's just this little pad here. It doesn't even look like much. But there's some kind of chemical or something in that thing. And when you get it wet and you scrub something, it will take about anything you can find out. So we got that thing, got a little wet and rubbed it on the flooring, and it came, the permanent marker came right off. It was awesome. So you see, this is kind of like a new technology that takes a leap forward and solves problems for customers that they might not even known they had at the time. Another example of this is what's called Rebath. I don't know if you've heard of Rebath, but Rebath is when you've got, they take, you look at the picture here on the left, you take the old bath and then you basically put an entire new bath over top of what you have. So you don't actually have to take out the old tub and the old backsplash and whatnot. There's this technology that allows them basically to just come in and put something over it. So it's a great way to renovate a bathroom, a lot cheaper and a lot faster. So these are examples of technologists kind of leapfrogging what exists today, and providing customers with real opportunities for value and vendors opportunity for value. Another example might be Amazon same-day delivery. I just thought of that on the cuff too. That's sort of revolutionizing how you can get products and how fast you can get them. Well, finally, let's look at a fourth problem source. Is what I call the lure of the new and unique. The lure, the draw of the new and unique. This occurs when a unique product or service, or a combination of products and services, comes along that creates benefits for customers or offers them something they value that's kind of new and different. A good example of this is mod pizza. You ever been to a mod pizza? It's the same old pizza you get anywhere else by and large, but they make it to order right in front of you. So you go in and it's almost like being at a Subway. You tell them what toppings you want and all of that. They put it on and then they put it in the oven and they bake it very fast. I don't know exactly how they do it. And then they serve it to you. But their success, Mod Pizza's success, is not really because their pizza is any better. I mean, I'm sure, and I've been there before, it's good pizza. But it's not that it's head and shoulders above everyone else. It's that they've got this unique way, and new and unique way of letting you choose your toppings and baking it and getting it quick. Everybody's used to having to wait a long time for pizza and basically picking it off a menu. But these guys are letting you do whatever. So they're giving you something new and unique. And then you can turn around and promote that and drive business. Now let's step back for a moment here and think about our goal as those who are trying to create value. Let's step back as we look at these four problem areas and four ways for us to create value. Let's step back and ask ourselves, what is the broad goal? What are we really trying to do out of these? And I think the goal really is a four-part goal. Number one, we want to find an opening in the market. And you notice as we went through these four items, we're looking for openings. We're looking for a place where we can create value that competitors are not already in. All right? We want to find an opening in the market that customers value. If you find an opening but nobody wants to buy it, no customers are interested, that doesn't do you any good. So you find an opening that customers value, that you are in a position to take advantage of. And this is very important. If you can't take advantage of that opening, you don't have the skills, the technology, maybe the funding or whatever, then it doesn't really do any good for you to identify it. It's great to know it, but you can't take advantage of it. So you have to find something that's an opening that customers value, that you are in a position to take advantage of. And then finally, that is large enough to sustain your business. So you're looking for kind of something that's hole in the market, something that's an opportunity that enough people are going to want to take advantage of that will allow you to sustain an entire business. All right? Because if you can't sustain a business, then you're just wasting your time. So let's go now and let's take these 4 components and this 4-part goal, and let's apply this to Barry, our auto mechanic from our previous session. You remember Barry, I'm sure. Let's ask this question. How can Barry use these problem sources to create value that can help him get ahead of his competition? Before we go to promoting what he has, let's see if Barry can make any adjustments to his business to create more value that then we can promote. So let's just briefly look at what he might be able to do. On the dissatisfaction problem, he could address complaints about wait times. Remember, he's an auto mechanic. When you go to an auto mechanic, what's the problem? Well, you got to wait. You don't trust the mechanic sometimes. You think they're trying to take advantage of you. Maybe you don't get the quality of the work that you'd like. So he could address those complaints in his business to make sure that he is reducing wait times, that he is carrying on in a way that's going to engender trust with his customers, and that he is truly producing quality services for his customers. And then he could take that and use it against his competition and use it in his promotional and advertising efforts. You see that? Number 2, the market coverage issue, the hole in the market. He might move his shop, or he might open a new shop in an underserved area of the market, or he might offer a service that is needed in the area. He might do his market research and figure out that, lo and behold, nobody within 10 miles of him, very few people do transmissions, for example, or maybe very few do European cars. And he goes, instead of just trying to compete head to head against everybody else, I might be able to offer something in a location or in a technology or service area that would help bring more value to my customers and set me apart. Technology. He might be able to adopt some cutting edge technology that lowers his costs significantly or reduces the time it takes for him to repair something, and he could use that as his promotional kind of focus. And I don't really have any ideas of what that might be, but he's in his business. He may know of some new technologies or a new way of doing things that would make him different in a valuable way. And then finally, he could try and be new and unique. He might be able to adopt a way that's unique to do business, that revolutionizes the market and creates an advantage. I remember seeing an advertisement for I think it was a dealership in the Charleston area. And the dealership offered, in this ad, they offered you bring your car in at night, drop it off, and they have it fixed by the next morning before you go to work. Now that's a very unique way to approach that nobody does, so you can drop your car off and pick it up the next morning for some repairs. So that's just an example of how a new and unique way to approach business. When Barry thinks about his value this way, by trying to make himself different in some way that is valuable to his customers, this gives him something truly worth promoting in the market. And it will also make his business much easier to promote in the long run. If you've got that value differentiator, then you have something to promote, you have something to draw customers with, and something to build that advertising and promotion campaign around, instead of just doing, hey, I do cars like everybody else does cars. Why is a customer going to respond to that? But when you approach it this way, Barry has a real opportunity to differentiate himself in a valuable way. Now the question becomes, how does Barry take this value, whatever he decides to do here, and figure out exactly who will want it? Because that's the next step, isn't it? Who is going to want this value? Because those people that want it are the ones we're going to promote to. So we have to go to that step next. How are we going to figure that out? We'll learn about this in our next session, Determining Your Best Customers. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this session, and I look forward to seeing you next time.